Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into a massive shift that's happening right now in the world of academic integrity. We're going to explore the growing tension between the traditional, old-school rules of plagiarism and the modern reality of digital tools. And we're specifically going to focus on how students are navigating this completely wild, brand new landscape.
Which leads us right to the big, provocative question, is using AI to write an essay the new plagiarism? Because let's be real, the generative AI revolution is completely changing the definition of cheating. It's totally blurring the lines of what it means to actually write something yourself, and it's forcing educators and professionals everywhere to entirely rethink what originality even means anymore.
And the numbers? They just show how mainstream this has already become. According to a 2024 survey, 95% of students already know about AI tools like ChatGPT. But here's the real shocker. A staggering 66% of them are actively using it for their daily homework and essays. We're talking everything from brainstorming ideas to drafting the whole paper. AI is definitely not on the fringes anymore. It is sitting right in the middle of the classroom. But before we can really unpack that AI disruption, we kind of need to look at the traditional tip of the iceberg first.
So, let's jump right into part 1, the plagiarism trap.
We'll start with the most obvious one, direct plagiarism. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's copying someone else's words verbatim without using quotation marks or providing a proper citation. It's the classic copy and paste. And sure, it's the absolute easiest form for professors and software to catch, but it's actually rarely just a bad student issue. The sources indicate that it's almost always a desperate response to pressure, running out of time at 2 a.m., or just a sheer lack of study skills.
Which leads us to our next section, unintentional versus deliberate copying.
Our sources actually use some pretty colorful, descriptive names to show just how many sneaky forms cheating can take. For example, you've got the ghostwriter, which is simply turning in someone else's work as your own. Then there's the potluck paper, where a student mixes a bunch of different sources together to kind of disguise the copying. You've also got the forgotten footnote, the poor disguise, and my personal favorite, the perfect crime, which, spoiler alert, doesn't actually exist. That's when a student cites perfectly in some places but purposefully paraphrases other arguments without giving any credit.
This brings us to a really tricky concept called mosaic plagiarism, or patch writing. This happens when you patch together phrases and sentence structures from a source, swap in a few synonyms, and then just mix them in with your own words without citing it. So many students genuinely but falsely believe that just right-clicking and swapping a few words makes the idea their own, but the underlying idea still firmly belongs to the original author.
Let's compare an original sentence to a patched-together student version. An original source by Yibo Zhu says, glycolysis is a central metabolic pathway that converts glucose. Now, the student version says, glycolysis is a fundamental metabolic process that transforms glucose. Notice what happened? Central metabolic pathway simply became fundamental metabolic process. Converts became transforms. Yes, the words changed, sure, but the underlying sentence structure and the exact sequence of ideas were stolen without credit. A plagiarism checker is going to flag this immediately because the structural DNA of the sentence is completely identical.
So, how do we avoid doing this? I absolutely love this analogy from the sources. The quilt versus the soup. When you're writing, don't make a quilt. Don't just sew big blocks of text and ideas together from a bunch of different sources. Instead, make a soup. Your own words and your own ideas are the broth, and the small, properly quoted or paraphrased pieces of source material are just floating inside it to add flavor. Now, to be fair, getting this wrong often isn't malicious at all. A lot of the time it stems from weak paraphrasing skills, or maybe staying a bit too tied to the source text because of a lack of confidence. Or hey, maybe you just accidentally forgot to paste the source link into your notes. These infractions are frequently unintentional symptoms of poor study habits, and that is exactly what makes the instant generation of AI so incredibly tempting when the clock is ticking down to a deadline.
That brings us to Section 3, the AI disruption. Right out of the gate, there's a massive risk here that so many students and professionals completely overlook. Professor Lyria Bennett-Moses makes a great point in this quote. She says, you do not want to put confidential client information into a tool like ChatGPT, because once you do, it becomes part of the training text it draws from. There are huge data privacy risks when you feed sensitive information into predictive language models. You literally do not know where your data might pop up next.
And that opens the door to the real danger of relying on AI-generated content. You have to remember, algorithmically produced text merely regurgitates existing internet concepts. It can generate wildly inaccurate content. I mean, we've already seen actual lawyers submit fake AI-generated legal cases to a judge. It completely lacks modern nuance, especially regarding ongoing public discussions. Plus, there is zero sourcing transparency. It absolutely jeopardizes your academic and professional standards because at the end of the day, it fundamentally lacks genuine human accuracy.
The crucial takeaway here is recognizing what generative AI simply cannot do. If you're in a field like journalism, AI cannot pick up a phone and call sources. It can't attend a press conference. It cannot look a witness in the eye during an emotional interview. And it certainly cannot apply human ethical judgment. Algorithms are amazing tools, but they cannot replace human investigation and empathy.
There's this brilliant perspective from David Colarusso. He says that focusing purely on the generative side, asking AI to just write a paper for you, is like looking through the wrong end of a telescope. Instead of students demanding the AI write the essay for them, we should be leveraging its massive power to digest, analyze, and summarize really large, complex data sets. That is where its true value actually lies.
Let's move on to Section 4, Consequences Beyond the Classroom.
Because taking these shortcuts has some extremely severe real-world fallout. Out in the professional world, passing off unverified AI content or plagiarized text can lead to literal copyright violations. It causes severe and sometimes totally irreversible reputation damage. In fields like law, journalism, or academic research, it leads to retracted publications and a complete loss of credibility. And in those careers, credibility is absolutely everything.
But look, simply banning AI, not going to work. Schools can block a website all they want, but students will literally just access it at home on their phones. Instead, our sources argue that society has to focus on accountability. We need to integrate digital literacy directly into educational programs so that users actually become safe, critical thinkers who know how to wield a technology responsibly, rather than just pretending it doesn't exist.
So, let's wrap this up with Section 5, How to Write Responsibly.
Here's a highly effective, practical, step-by-step framework you can use right now. Step 1. Read your sources, then physically close them, and write what you learned from memory. This actually forces your brain to truly process the idea. Step 2. Build your references as you write. Seriously, do not leave your citations for the very end. And Step 3. If you use AI, use it responsibly to summarize your research, not to generate your final text. This is literally your absolute best defense against accidental patch writing and AI misuse.
And when it comes to accurate paraphrasing, remember this. You have to completely restructure the sentence with entirely new words to convey the same idea. And yes, you still must include a citation. We are not just swapping out a few synonyms with a thesaurus here, right? We are truly digesting the information and communicating it in our own unique voice.
David Colarusso kind of hit the nail on the head here when he said, this is like the great power, great responsibility thing, giving users enough knowledge to know both the power and the danger. And that perfectly captures the core philosophy of our explainer today. These AI language models and research tools are incredibly powerful. They can save you tons of time and really boost your analysis, but ultimately, their use requires human integrity.
So, that leaves us with one final thought. As AI makes copying easier than it has ever been in human history, how will you protect your own authentic voice? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and remember that true understanding and original thought are things no algorithm